This is Legends of the Game, where the legends of yesterday inspire the heroes of tomorrow. Presented by Chase Toys, 417 Thorndike Road in Unity.
As a kid who grew up in Waterville and went to the Waterville Boys Club back in the day, back in the 60s, it was a safe haven for a lot of us to play basketball, to learn how to work with wood, all kinds of different things, learn how to get along with our pals. And I had no idea that 50 or so years later, that Boys Club would turn into what is now the Alfond Youth Center. And the man who had the vision in the early 90s to turn it into this, he had the fundraising ability, he had the ability to bring all the people together in Waterville. No easy task. He did it. Today on Legends of the Game here on The Score, our legend today is Ken Walsh of the Alfond Youth Center. It's a long way, Ken Walsh, from Brooklyn, New York to Waterville, Maine.
Quite honestly, the first time coming to Maine was in 1991, was when I was interviewing for this job.
Right. How'd you hear about the opening here?
Boys and Girls Club Network, working for the Boys and Girls Clubs in New Rochelle for 7 years. And I knew that it was time to leave New Rochelle, and I wanted to get out of the environment of the New York City Avenue. Threw a resume in Maine. Phil Roy called me up afterwards and invited me up for a tour. And at that point, at 30 years old, I figured I have nothing to lose. Why not?
What'd you think when you had the tour? And where was the tour? Tell us.
Well, it was a tour. It was the old
building,
Boys and Girls Club, that was built in the 20s, and it was the women's recreation facility. In 1950, Dr. Averill gave that facility to the Boys and Girls Club, and the Boys and Girls Club gave their facility on Temple Street to the Y.
Yep.
And so that facility was one that I walked through, and I remember looking at it like, holy smokes, we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I can remember the first time I went to it, which was in the late 60s as a club member, and there was a lot of duct tape around then.
Yeah, and my first day of work, I remember, was March 3rd, 1992. I went for a 5-mile run, and I said, holy smokes, it's cold up here. Right? And then, you know, I took a shower, I dressed up, went to work, no oil in the tank. You know, so that was the part of my first day.
Yeah.
15 years, the club was in the red, and there was real challenges for the Boys and Girls Club at that time. They actually were talking about closing the doors.
Did you have a vision in your head when you came of not necessarily it being this, although maybe you did, but what was your vision? You
know, I'm a program guy at heart, not an administrator. You know, I was a coach, I was a teacher, PE teacher. Coached varsity basketball, coached varsity wrestling, baseball before coming to Maine. So I wanted to develop the best possible programs, but you need great facilities for great programs, right? So one of the first things that we did at the old club immediately is clear out some of those vacant rooms that weren't used for years, and developed the martial art program, developed the teen center, developed the dance program, started developing things like that. So the vision was first, okay, let's straighten out this house and let's get this place buzzing for kids for activities. Then from there, you're going to attract some energy of philanthropists, supporters, Harold plus many people, to say, the vision, what can the vision be to build one of the best Boys and Girls Clubs in the country? And then of course the Y was having their challenges, the outdoor pool had their challenges, so bringing those three entities together. I said, how do you pull the Yankees and Red Sox together? Well, you don't, but we did. We did with the Y and Boys and Girls Club, and still to this day, there's not one merger at 8,000 Ys and Boys and Girls Clubs that did what we did, and are doing what we're doing.
Your prowess on the baseball field back in the day in high school.
Yeah, feeder programs are so important. As we know, the best programs anywhere in the state is because they have a good feeder program. They work with the kids at a young age, and the coaches know these kids all the way up. We had that in high school, right? We grew together, the Depot Hill gang, all the way through. So that core group of guys, just like you talk about the core group of kids you played with. we knew each other. We knew when somebody was cutting to the basket. We knew if Tommy Romano was going to throw a curveball and where to be at shortstop, you know. So those things make championships, and we won Bi-Valley championships 2 consecutive years. I was a captain of the baseball team, along with 2 others. I was captain of the soccer team. So the sports was the love. If you excel in sports, you will excel in life.
So as we stand here on Fran Purnell Wrigley Field, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, I think of Fran Purnell by himself in many ways. And I just feel the energy of Fran and volunteers of 50 plus years, because we all know mentors make all the difference in the world. Coaches make all the difference in the world in many different aspects, not only athletics, but
and he was one to you.
Yeah, he was. I wish I got to know Fran 20 years prior. We started a relationship probably, 2014, 15. So I only had him for a short period of time.
Yeah.
You knew him forever. You knew him as a kid. And, that spirit of Fran and what he meant for the kids, the Challenger program, second to none. So this field, is the spirit of Fran Purnell. And it's rightfully so that this is a licensed Chicago Cubs Wrigley Field. That's what you give to a person like Fran Purnell.
They have given their endorsement for this.
Yeah, that wasn't.
That doesn't come easy.
No, that wasn't easy to get. Of course, it only made sense to, if we're going to do something in Waterville special, the oldest National League park.
You saw what the field was here, and to see what it is now,
yeah,
it's extraordinary. This has turned into everything that you thought it would be and more, huh?
Yeah, I'm a traditionalist. I've been playing ball. I'm still playing ball at 63. So, it's a dream come true. I mean, we opened up in 2016. That's when the Chicago Cubs won the World Series, by the way. And that scoreboard is frozen in time with when the Cubs won the World Series. So the batter that was up at that time, what was the no balls, 1 strike, we try to make things as authentic as possible. The benches here, this is really cool story. The benches come from Chicago Cubs, Wrigley Field. They were renovating center field, and I got wind of it. And I said, hey, listen, what's the chances of you guys giving us the benches from Wrigley Field? And they said, we could do that as long as you come and pick it up. And I'm saying, what the heck, how am I gonna pick it up?
I'll fly to Chicago again.
So I talked to the managers of Wyman Blueberry, and I said, on the way back, would you go to Chicago Cubs, Wrigley Field? I got benches to pick up. And he says, yeah, you just pay for the gas on the way back there. I said, no problem.
Hey, and you can't get anything if you don't ask, right, Ken Walsh?
Yeah, think about this. The benches are about 100 years old from Chicago Cubs center field. So when those kids are sitting there, they don't even know the energy level of those benches.
At Toro, we know shortcuts don't cut it. Our iron-forged cutting system is the bedrock of machines that get the job done right, season after season. We use thick, heavy steel. More rigid means less flex, so the deck stays precisely on its mark, producing an unmatched, even and clean cut that only comes from a Toro.
Get your Toro Zero Turn at Chase Toys, 417 Thorndike Road in Unity.
So when you drive down McGraw Pond Road in Oakland, there's an eye stopper, a showstopper, and we're standing in the outfield of it right now. Little Fenway here in beautiful downtown Oakland. Again, I ask you, Ken Walsh, who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, amazing, right? I mean, I was just mentioning before how it's a showstopper. There's cars that drive down this road going to their camp from out of state, and you hear the brakes.
They go on fast.
Go on fast.
Quick stop.
They're stopping, they come out, they tickle it, and it's like, this is truly a field of dreams.
All right, when I came to Camp Tracy back in the day, the Y Camp Tracy in the 60s, and the early 70s. This was like, there was like 2 levels here, and the thought of having a model of Fenway Park was not something I dreamed of when I was 9 at Camp Tracy. So how did it happen?
Yes, far from it. I mean, it was part of the whole renovation project of Camp Tracy. We used to have one bus that used to come in the 60s and 70s and 80s and drop kids off for 6-7 weeks. And when we merged the Y Boys and Girls Club back in 1999, I said, wow, you know, every kid should have this opportunity to come out to Camp Tracy. And we started renovating Camp Tracy, putting the climbing towers in, the outdoor theaters, the cabins. We're building a dining facility now. And of course, I'm a baseball nut, and Harold Alfond, who's been a big supporter, was a minority owner of the Boston Red Sox, and he took me to my first Fenway game, being a Yankee guy. And the coolest thing is, like, you hear people talk about their first game at any stadium, right? I remember walking up the stairway and looking down at Fenway and saying, oh my God.
The green.
It is true. You can see it on TV, but just to see
the
dimensions of Fenway.
Yeah.
And so Harold was, of course, getting up in age, and he helped us with a lot of projects. And I kept thinking, what do you give to a billionaire? Give him something.
Who's got everything?
That, yeah, in regards to resources. But does he have his own licensed Fenway Park
Right.
in his home backyard? And so I went through that process. And of course, the outcome was tremendous. And this 2-tier field, you couldn't even imagine that you could build anything on this field. But we did it with great volunteers, great engineers, and by getting a license agreement with the Boston Red Sox, we were able to get their architects to help with the design.
Right.
We built it in 2007.
So dreams do come true, and this, you know, you combine these 2 fields, this little Fenway, Little Wrigley in Waterville. There isn't a boys club, girls club / Y in the country that can match up with this.
Yeah, or many baseball clubs, softball clubs, to have what we have here in Waterville. If you look at the facilities, Wrigley, Fenway, at Kobe, at Thomas, it's becoming a tournament town. And that was the vision. How do we get more kids into the game of softball, baseball, and have them connect with other kids around the country and the world?
You couldn't have envisioned this big, right? Or did you?
No. It kind of was a snowball going down a hill. The momentum, the success kind of grew into this 100,000 square foot facility. I mean, when we first walked in here back in 1999, there was 55,000 square feet. So we've added 45,000 square feet to this facility since '99. So we've kind of built upon that. But you talk about the old club. People remember the club, okay, because it's not what your facility, I mean, the facilities help, but it's the people inside the facilities that make all the impact. The coaches, the instructors, the quality of life in Maine. And what we have, it's not about chasing the resources, it's not about money, it's about what we have here in Maine. And we are so lucky to have the quality of life we have in Maine.
As a Waterville native who grew up here, went to the club, and now seeing what this has become, I find it actually heartwarming. I'm very sentimental about it and what you've done for the community. So when you walk into this building every day, what do you feel when you walk in here? Pride? Explain, if you can, the feeling of getting out of your car every day and walking into this place in the morning.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think we have too many people who are dead people walking, right? They haven't found themselves, they've found their niche, found their passion in life. Being able to be a small piece of making a difference in people's lives, I get inspired every day of the employees that we hire, the volunteers that get involved, seeing now the kids of the kids that I've had, you know, being involved. And there's something to say about that, coming back to your community, having the essence of where you were brought up, but being involved in this organization for 30 plus years, it's a family, you know, and this is always going to be a family. Waterville will be my family. This place will be always dear to my heart, no matter what direction I go later on. But the pride is seeing kids develop into young people and to leaders and giving back. Pay it forward, cliche, it's true. You know, if we could impact one person, their impact could be tens and thousands down the line, right? So if we hit a number of those people, what kind of impact can it be, you know, across the country?
You're about to walk into the sunset, though. It's close to being over. You're going to retire.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, first of all?
Well, first of all, retirement is death. So I'm not going to retire. I'm going to be doing other things, right? And my aspiration of what I want to do after I close chapter here is, one, make sure this place is sustainable for a long time. That's why we've been building endowments. Our endowment's up to 30 million. It was zero 20 years ago. So having a sustainable plan to be able to pay your coaches and teachers and instructors are key. But I'm a project guy. I'm going to continue to help other communities. I've been doing it pro bono for many, many years for Ys and Boys and Girls Club. Anybody calls me up, I'm always going to pick up the phone. I'm always going to say, hey, listen, here's my viewpoint. I'll open up my book. I have nothing to hide. If this helps you out, helps the community out, God bless us. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. So I'll probably be doing a lot more of that and playing a whole lot more baseball.
Yes. And lastly, when you do walk out the door and transition to whatever comes up next for you, in a sentence, sum up what you think your legacy here is at AYCC.
Developing mentors.
2 words? That's pretty good.
Yeah, developing mentors, because mentors will make a difference in any community. You have the right coach, right person. The impact of those people are endless. We could develop mentors, our life would be so much better.
As a Waterville kid, you've been a hell of an asset to this community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. I appreciate it.